Isn't motivation something you want? Discipline is something you need. Obsession is something you have to have. I'm going to show you what I wanted, how I got it, and how I was obsessed to get there. All right, new episode of Forget the Noise podcast. I am pumped about this one. We're recording this at like 10 a.m. 8:30 this morning, I got a text from our guest today, Kasia Cappuccitti, that she's willing to be on the podcast. Like, this is going to be raw, unfiltered material. It works perfect because our last podcast, I just opened up to everyone. I became vulnerable about what I'm aiming for, what my goals are, how I'm going to get there. And this is going to give you like a pull back the curtain kind of perspective on like my day to day. So like, it's real, authentic experiences from someone that's with me literally every single day at home, at work, with the kids, out on activities. Like, I'm always with her. So she's going to give you a real perspective on it. We're going to dig into who she is as a person. Going to have my tablet open here today. I'm going to read my notes as much as I can. There's a lot I want to get through. So just excuse that till I get the vibe going with the podcast. But we're going to kick it right off the hop. So we have Kasia Cappuccitti here today. She's the owner of Kasia Custom Interiors, in-house designer for AC Custom, mother, wife, 2 kids, 3 houses, and a partridge in a pear tree. So everyone knows me. Everyone knows how I feel about the topics that are going to come up today. But today we're going to see from my better half's perspective. I want entrepreneurs and high performers out there that are working together, that are running businesses together, to look at this episode and be able to like relate to it. I want them to be able to look at each other after watching the episode and say, hey, you know what? Let's open up the floor and have a conversation. Let's make this work. Because a lot of people say working together doesn't work. It does work. We've been doing it for 6 years now, 5 years.
Yeah. Fun.
And it does work. You just got to be able to communicate with each other. Got to be able to some days turn it off. Some days it doesn't turn off. There's no such thing as work-life balance to me, but we'll get into that a little bit later. And after the episode, I wanted to bring value to people. So let's dive into it. From the outside, I think everyone thinks it's all rainbows and sunshines between us, right? Like, they look at us, say, you guys are happy, you guys are working together, you guys are doing well, companies are doing good. But realistically, like, there are struggles behind it. And with all those struggles, like, do you find anything in specific that from day one until now, there's been like a wedge in there? There's been that one item where it's kind of like, we just can't figure this out. We can't get through it. We can't navigate it. And it's just one of those things we kind of accept. It's like a bad knee or a bad hip. It's like, oh, it always hurts. So
yeah, I think you kind of touched on it, and that's not turning it off. You know, like, most people will go to work, they come home at 5, they might tell their husbands about their day and move on. I feel like for us, it's constant. We'll be watching a show and at 8 o'clock in the evening, and it's like, oh yeah, by the way, I forgot to mention, we need to order this for this client. And, you know, so I feel like we really don't turn it off, and that's the hardest part. Otherwise, no.
So you as a person, individually, as like just Kasia. So I heard a quote the other day, and it's, you are the author, not the book. And I feel like building out these companies together, we're writing a book. So let's figure out who Kasia is as the author. Like, take away the designer role, take away the mother role, take away the wife role. Like, who are you as a person? Like, activities you like to do, hobbies you like to do. And I want to dive into this because we work so well together. I want people to see, like, we are different people. We can work together and not be the exact same person. People are like, hey, 2 couples that work together, they're both workaholics. It's not like that with us.
No.
And that's why I want to kind of figure out who the author is on the book of Kasia and everything else you have going on. So, like, hobbies, activities you like doing, spare time.
I mean, I feel like, to compare us, let's say, I'm definitely more of a social person. 100%. So my friends are very important to me. I do spend a lot of time with them. We like to go out for dinner. We like to hang out. We like to drink wine. We like to read books, right? So my book club is very important to me. As far as the author of this business venture that we're in, I feel like I'm not the author. You're definitely the author.
And that's what I want to get at, is like, who is the author, Kasia Cappuccitti, outside of the book? So the author can have 20 titles. So you have the title of Kasia Custom Interiors, you have the title of being a mother, you have a title of being a wife. Like, I want to know about the author. So, like, you like socializing with friends, you like being part of your book club.
I feel like I'm a mother first and foremost. Like, that is more important to me than anything else. I know it sounds cliche, but it's kind of true. I do love my job. I love working with you, but to me, that's not, this is me, you know, like I feel like I have so many other things that are important, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I kind of feel like I touched upon most of it.
So going from that, another quote, because I believe that I'm the visionary. I think everyone out there knows I'm the visionary between the two of us, is, tell me if this relates to you. Being married to a visionary means living in a house with 1,000 windows, all looking towards tomorrow. It's rarely quiet, never boring, and always full of hope, but also risk.
1000%. Yes.
Is that how you feel?
Yeah.
A visionary?
Yes.
So what's one benefit of being married to a visionary? And remember, this whole episode, what we're trying to do is bring perspective to people out there. So that's why I want you to really be honest about it. And if it digs into me, it digs into me. There's going to be a lot of episodes out there where I'm going to get...
I think we all know I don't mind doing that even on camera.
So like being married to a visionary, like what's one benefit of it? Like what do you love knowing that, hey, you know what? I know he'll think of something, or he'll think outside the box. Like what is one thing you love about being married to somebody?
I feel like in a lot of ways, it's almost like having another child, you know, like you get to watch this baby grow. No, I mean, in some ways, yes. But no, I mean, like as a visionary, like you plant these little seeds, and it's not something I would ever think of, or I would ever even be motivated to do. And like watching it grow from this idea to concept to now suddenly this business that just keeps growing every day. It's like watching a baby like come to life, you know. It's kind of exciting.
And now the flip side to that is one downside of being married to a visionary.
You never stop working.
Love that.
I mean, yeah, I think the downside is the risk, right? Like with every decision, every goal that you have, there's risk. And I feel like, you know, over the time that we've been together, I trust that you're not going to risk everything if you think you're going to lose it all. But it's always there. You know, there's always this possibility, just like when we started the business. You had a good job. It paid the bills. We were happy, you know. All of a sudden, it's like, oh, I think I'm going to quit my job and start this. I was like, whoa, like, hold on a second. I can't float this boat on my own. So that was scary, right?
So over the years, like what created the, I guess, security that when I do work in a visionary role, that you're like, hey, you know what? I have confidence in this because he's thought it through. He has an idea. Is it like the receipts I've deposited over the years of constantly making it work or figuring it out? Like, was there one key factor where you actually turned around and just woke up one day and said, holy shit, like this is working? Like, or has it just progressed over time?
I think it's progressed over time, just knowing like, even if things didn't work, you made them work. Do you know what I mean? So that just added that faith in you, and like, well, if it doesn't work, he'll figure out a way to make it work, or we'll do something. But I feel like you've always been like that since I've met you, which is partly why I fell in love with you, to be honest. But, you know, like you just make things work. I don't know how else to say that.
Okay, so let's dive into, I'm trying to go through my notes here, but there's a lot I want to get to. So you left your full-time job. You jumped into the business. Let's start back at day one or even a few weeks beforehand. So what you expected to happen when you jumped into the business versus what actually happened, was it exactly what you envisioned? Like you had to play that visionary role at a certain point. Like when I came to you and said, you know what, fuck it, quit your job, come work with us and help us out. You'll be able to bring a service in that we can't provide. There's a point in that moment where you had to become a visionary. Like you had no choice. Like, because it's not like you just came to work underneath me and assist me in a certain way. You had your own role by doing the design work. So you had your own department. You had your own like systems and processes you had to figure out, your own process you had to figure out. So there was a point in that you became the visionary, but during the process of being the visionary to actually becoming the integrator in the business, like, is it what you imagined it was going to be?
You know, I feel like anything in life, you know, for example, you meet someone and you think, oh, I just want to have a house and have some babies and hope they're healthy. And, you know, you don't have, those are the big goals in your life. And then as you progress, the houses get bigger, you have more children, you know, you do other things that grow. I feel like the business is kind of the same, where I just wanted us to be able to pay our bills and love our job, you know, and that was the goal. And I was happy just being there. I never envisioned having the shop, having the office, and like growing it to that extent. Yeah, being on a podcast. To me, those are just things that naturally progress with being motivated and being driven and being, you know, that visionary.
So what part of the process of jumping in do you have confidence in? Because there's a lot of people out there where they're at that point where like they're bringing their spouses into their business. They want to work together. They want to build something together. Like, what are some things you had confidence in that people are listening to that they can relate to or help you get through, where it's kind of like, okay, if I do this, this is the reason it'll be worth it. Because there's a reward behind any pain. There's a reward behind any risk.
I think,
what was your reward out of it? Was it like working together? Was it?
I think being your boss in a lot of ways, like, yes, there's, you know, drawbacks of the stress of like, I have to create my own paycheck. It's not guaranteed to me by the school board or by whoever's employed me at the time. I think the bonus, or, you know, the things that I love is that I create my own schedule, you know, so I hated when the kids were little, for example. I could never walk them to school or pick them up from school because my hours at work didn't work that way. Now I can make my schedule work for that. I mean, they're older, so they don't need me like that, but I still enjoy those little things. You know, if they had a field trip, I could be like, sorry, I'm taking today off. I'm going on a field trip with my kids. I didn't have that luxury before.
So it's creating independence ultimately.
It's creating independence, and then also, you know, being your own boss, you could say yes or no to whatever jobs you want. And I know that that sounds kind of like, why would you turn down jobs? But sometimes you get a feeling like, this isn't for me. We're not going to work. This isn't going to be good. And I have that power of saying, no, thank you. Versus on my old job, it was like, this is who you're working with, and that's that.
And outside of the regular doubts of like, am I going to be able to pay my bills, all that, were there any other doubts you had in yourself jumping into the business? Like, am I going to fit in the role that we're creating? Am I gonna get along?
Oh, 100%.
What were some of the doubts that stuck out to you in the big scheme of things?
Am I going to be good enough? You know, are people going to see my vision and say, "Wow, that's pretty awesome," and just make it successful that way, I guess.
I love when you touch on that, because I think the imposter syndrome is such a big thing for especially people jumping into a business or starting a business. Is like, am I good enough? Like, I go through that still 5-6 years in business where I actually look at myself getting into podcasting, getting into personal branding. I'm like, am I good enough? And do you feel like jumping into the business, having me already be established somewhat in the business, helped you alleviate that imposter syndrome? Do you think like support from your spouse helps? Or do you think it's kind of one of those like, you're just asking me, I'm okay because it's polite to ask. You know when people ask a question and they're kind of like, they're just doing it because they have to. Like, hey, how's your day? No one gives a shit how your day is. They're just asking to be nice because it's what you ask. So having your spouse in the business already, do you feel like that, I guess, reassurance, that support is genuine? Or do you feel like it's just there because you're in the business and it's your spouse? Like, how do you feel?
For me, it's genuine. I feel like I wouldn't be here if it weren't for you starting your own business. As much as I love doing this as a hobby or in my own house or for my friends, I would have never taken that leap to do this if you hadn't done it with me.
And getting over the feeling of the imposter syndrome, like, am I good enough, or is this going to work? But jumping into something somewhat already established and having me try to support you as much as I could, like, did that help you get past that, like, am I good enough phase?
Yeah.
Quicker than...
I mean, it helps,
yeah, it helps.
For sure.
And then where you're at now compared to the day you made the commitment, like, is it something you envision? Like you said, when you were going to leave your job versus actually leaving your job, the transition wasn't exactly what you thought it would be. Now, looking back from day one, first day you opened a laptop and said, I'm going to send my first email, and which was weird, like, addressing you through email. That was honestly, that was really weird.
I don't think we've ever emailed each other before this.
Kasia, and then I'm like, I'm on the couch at 7 p.m. But the fun part is that we're able to now draw that line. But from the day you sent your first email or opened your laptop for the first time to where we are today, like, was it something you actually envisioned? How has it changed? Because I really want to dial into you before we get into us kind of thing. So, like, I want to know, like, anyone making this leap, like, how far off were you from what you envisioned? And there's always that like really big picture kind of idea I find, and maybe me just in my head, but there's a big picture idea in my head, and then there's a realistic picture, right?
I think it's not far off aside from like having the physical space. That's the part that I never really thought we would, or maybe not that I didn't think we would get it. I just didn't envision us being there. Do you know what I mean? I always thought we'd be working from home and just having this little business, making it work.
Little business.
But that's the only part that I would say is kind of like, I never thought we'd be here. Or I didn't even think about it, to be honest. It's not that I didn't think we would be here.
That correlates with the saying of, like, you underestimate what you can do in 5 years and overestimate what you can do in a year, right? Because I think on one of my last podcasts, I was actually saying, remember those nights in that little office we had at home?
Yeah.
And, like, literally, there was nights where, like, remember, and you can vouch for it. Like, I would say, I'm pulling all-nighter. You're like, what do you have to do? I'm like, I got to work on something. I'll figure it out. And I remember one night I actually wrote in my little, like, goal journal, like, we're going to have an office space. We're going to have multiple businesses. And that was a 5-year plan. And we're just rolling in. We just finished our 5 years and we have multiple business. We have the shop. We have the office. We have the space to do a podcast. Like, you know what I mean? So it's kind of cool that like you didn't envision that. And now that we're here, does that change your perspective on what the next 5 years brings? Now that you've seen what 5 years can do, like,
for sure.
Where's your head now? Like, how much do you move that's what I'm trying to say is like, you have goalposts that I resonate as goals. And every time you get close to them, I find people that are motivated, want to build something, move those goalposts. And say they move them 5 feet the first time. When they realize they can move those 5 feet really quickly, next time they move 10 feet. And next time, so it's almost like you're moving for bigger goals. Now that you've seen this after 5 years, do you feel that your goalpost has moved further now with your expectation?
For sure, yeah. I think when you, going back to sitting in that little office in our house, and you made those goals, and I didn't doubt that we'd get there. I just felt like, oh, well, that's not going to happen in a year, 2 years, 5 years. Like, I thought that was the far stretch, you know? And then we made it in less than that, and for some goals. So now I feel like, for you especially, if you're making goals, I'm looking at it more like, yeah, we're going to get there because we did it the first time. So I don't doubt that we would do it the second time. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And I feel like it goes back to the consistent deposits or receipts deposited, where it's kind of like, it's like a proof of concept going through it. So that kind of touches on the next thing I wanted to talk about perfectly, where it's, as a visionary, I've deposited the receipts. I have the proof of concept that I can make it work, but there's a lot of late nights thinking outside the box, coming up with ideas. Another quote I heard, and this one like hit me like home. Like it says, behind every entrepreneur is a spouse who is tired of hearing about the pivot they made at 2 a.m.
Or the phone calls.
Yeah, or the phone calls, yeah.
I feel like
when it comes to having had that experience, like between us, where I come home and I'm like, hey babe, I have an idea.
Yeah.
And there's a constant pivot. Like, we're going to do this with the company. Like,
I think where you and I work with these goals is, yes, you are the visionary and you have these high goals. And sometimes I have to be like the one to rein it in and go, hey, you know, I'm all for everything, but this, I feel like we need to take down a notch, you know? And I think what works between us is that you listen. But you know what I mean? Like, there are times where you're like, okay, you know what? Maybe she's right. Maybe this one needs to take a back seat for a second. Yeah. And I think that's where it works. And I think that's where it helps me to trust you, because I know that you're not just like, nope, this is what I'm seeing. And like, I don't care what anyone says, you know? That works for us. That helps me to trust you. And, you know, yeah.
So touching on the open means of communication and being able to kind of like open the floor, you feel like that helps being married to a visionary?
Yeah.
Now, do you believe from us, you get to have two visionaries or two integrators in a marriage?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, if their goals align, if they're kind of on the same page, yes. If they're like, you know, your vision is to start this business in Orangeville and grow it as much as you can, and my vision is to move to the States and, you know, be a circus performer. I don't know. Obviously, no, that wouldn't work. Do you know what I mean? So I feel like, yes, you can have two visionaries, but they kind of have to be
now with two
relatively on the same
page. With one visionary tends to come a lot of risk. Now, do you still think it would work because two visionaries adapt so much risk in the goals they make? Or do you think two integrators don't adapt enough risk, which piggybacks off of the low risk, low reward? Like, do you think the end result between, let's compare two visionaries, two integrators, and a visionary integrator, who do you think will get to the finish line first?
Truthfully, I think it needs to be like a balance of a visionary and an integrator, or, you know what I mean? Like, you can't have too much of one thing, because then you're kind of tripping yourselves. Does that make sense?
100%. So when we get to the point of me being the visionary, like, I know there's days where, like, I have ideas, I pivot, I change the company, or I'm like, we're gonna do this different.
Yeah.
Like, what goes through your head now versus what used to go through your head day one? Like, I find now you're very, like, shrug your shoulders, okay, babe. From my perspective,
I think we touched on that, right? Like, in the beginning, yes, I was the one that's like, whoa, are we sure this is going to work? You know, like, I had to be the voice of reason sometimes, which is what felt like for me. And then slowly, as we, like, you know, started the business and then grew the business, I trusted you more. And now it's kind of like, okay, babe, like, yeah, you run with it, you know?
So with my day-to-day schedule, you know, it's pretty rigid. I try to fulfill every minute of every day. I try to have my downtime at night. But how do you absorb that as my wife? Not as my business partner, not as, like, I guess, raising kids together, like, whatever it is, like, as my wife, how do you accept and kind of, because you do a great job. Like, if I say I want to do something and I'm going to add something on my plate, you're like, if you can find time, fine. Or where are you going to find the time? And then you make me think to myself, like, hey, like, she's right. Like, where am I going to find the time? So I have to take something off my plate.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, sometimes there's a sacrifice to something, but you're good at kind of delegating that and, like, balancing me out. But how do you handle knowing a husband's going to be running 100 miles an hour, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, in comparison to, like, an outsider? Like, you look at other couples and stuff, and then you see us, it's kind of like, well, we're all hanging out. My husband's trying to write a script for a podcast. Like, we're coming up with a content plan. Like,
I feel like it's hard for me to answer that because you've always been like that. You know, like, when I met you, you were working for yourself, but you never stopped. And then when you stopped working for yourself and worked for a company, it was the same thing. You were constantly taking overtime, and I want to do this and I want to do that. So I don't even know how to answer that, because I feel like we've always been this way. It's just different because now it's our business versus you just working for somebody else. Or, do you know what I mean? Like,
but everything we did before this point moved the needle forward.
Yeah.
Now jumping into, like, a podcast, jumping into personal branding, jumping into, like, YouTube content, personal development, coaching, a lot of this has an investment of my time without a direct ROI. So before, like, when I'd work hard, I'd do the overtime, I put the hours in, I put in the time, I get a paycheck, or I get paid for something. Now I'm taking time away from us to put time into something where there's not really an ROI. Unless
I think
we look at the bigger picture, but there's actually not. So how do you feel as my wife putting time in to stuff that you don't even, that you can't even envision, like, a return on investment?
I think what helps in our situation is that we do work together. So I feel like, you know, we're spending time right now, even though this is for your podcast, I'm here with you. We're having a conversation, right?
Let me put it out there. If you like it, you can be a co-host all the time.
I'm good. This is a one and done for me. But so I feel like we make up seeing each other. We'll have lunch in the middle of the day, which we never could before. Do you know what I mean? So, like, when you come home and you're like, oh, I got to do this and I'm writing a book and I'm doing that, I've already seen you. So I don't feel like, oh, great, I never get to see my husband.
I wrote a book, and that was
at the time you were writing it. And then, like I said, I have my friends, I have the kids. Like, it's not like I'm sitting at home all lonely and like, oh, I'm so bored. So, like, I find the time to do things for myself.
So looking out at anyone that's listening to this right now. So imagine, like, a couple jumped on board with each other on that, what advice would you give to that? I don't want to say secondary spouse, but there's one that started a business and one that's jumping into it, one that has to support it.
Yeah.
And that kind of crutch. Like, what would you say to that spouse living in the day-to-day of like someone that is constantly on the go? And I know I've always been like that, but take yourself away from that and imagine what it'd be like to be a spouse married to someone. Like, now that you've lived and seen what the realistic hours are and the time that's put in, and I guess the distracted mindset, like,
I think,
what advice would you give people out there?
I think it needs to be like, you have to be on board. This isn't something like, I'll give you an example. For example, two people meet and one wants to have kids, the other one doesn't. And let's just say, for argument's sake, the woman's the one that wants to have kids. The man's like, no. And in her mind, she might be like, well, I'll change his mind later. You know, maybe he'll change his mind. And as I know from experience with people I've known, that never works out. My advice to you is don't go in there marrying an entrepreneur, marrying someone who's a visionary, thinking, you know, they'll snap out of this, because I don't think that they will. I think that is ingrained in these people like yourself. You just have to accept it, try to be supportive, but within reason. You know, if you think like, wow, we're going to lose our house because of this, sometimes those people need a check-in and say, hey, I support you, but not like this. Like, we got to take it down a notch, you know? But I guess within reason, like, I don't even know. It's so hard to answer because people are so different.
So with the day-to-day operations then, how do you balance it? Like, what takes precedence when you create your schedule? I know you said you're a mother first, so that's clearly
at the
top of it. But then, like, having the design company, working with an AC Custom as a designer, you also help out administrative around AC Custom. You mop the floors, which we got in a big fight about today. Like, just supporting me as a wife, and then on top of that being like my business partner. Like, how do you wake up in the morning saying this is what a priority is? Because if you look at the whole scale of it,
squeaky wheel, you know, the squeaky wheel.
Yeah, but if you look at the whole scale of it, like, we're not much far apart. Like, you have a lot going on. It's just like you're maintaining. I feel like you're maintaining, and I'm still building.
Yeah.
So like you're juggling and I'm still trying to throw balls into my. Yeah, exactly. Right. Like, you're catching them behind me. But like, when you wake up in the morning, like, how do you determine what takes precedence that day? And is there ever an exchange on when something else doesn't take precedence? Like, is there ever a time where it's like, these two things are at par, I always do this one first, but today this one needs my attention?
I think I go back to the saying, the squeaky wheel gets the oil, right? So there's days where my kids have doctor's appointments and they need to be here and there and everywhere else. But at work, I don't have a lot going. They get my attention first and I squeeze in everything else after. And then it's the same thing for work. You know, there's jobs that are like, we're starting this bathroom, so we need tiles and faucets in this, and that takes precedence because that's more important than an email I can attend to tomorrow, or my kids who might not need me that day, or, you know, whatever it is.
And while you're operating all this, being married to someone with a personality like mine, is it ever running in the back of your mind like, okay, I'm juggling all this today, I've created like a priority list, I've created a schedule, and now I got to worry about where he's gonna throw the dart at the dartboard, like
every day of my life.
Every day,
every single day.
So how do you cope with new ideas though? Like, are you at the point where it's kind of like, I know the way he is. If he says he's gonna do something, I got about 45 minutes to make a decision, or is it one of those like, okay, park it and I'll just backpedal him?
You know what? Again, there's no answer. There's days where I'm just like, okay, yeah, like I see what you're saying and I support you and have at it. There's days where I'm like, I'm going to let this one slide because I feel like in 2 days he's going to change his mind and it's not really going to be a thing.
So it's got to know me personally over the time that
exactly, right?
Judgment. Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's days where I'm like, okay, this is where I got to say like, cool it, you know, like
my hibiscus idea or whatever it was the other day. To go to like Africa and go swim in tent.
Yeah, exactly.
And then what's the best and worst parts about, I guess, wearing all those hats? Like, do you generally enjoy it? Let's start there. Like, do you generally enjoy wearing all those hats?
Yeah,
So what are the best and worst parts about it?
life's never boring. That's a good part, I guess. The worst parts, I mean, I love everything we do. I love where we're at, you know, like I'm happy. I've no complaints. The worst parts, I don't even know. I guess it's just living with someone who's always on their phone and always thinking of new ideas.
Actually, you know what? That's a good point I never even thought about is like me on my phone. I am like glued to my phone. Like I don't go anywhere without my phone. I don't think I ever miss phone calls. I never miss a text. Like when we sit with like, say friends, let's get personal now. Yeah. So like we're sitting with friends and I'm sitting there and I'm doing this all the time and I'm looking up at people mid-conversation. Like, were you always okay with it or did you, I never really asked you. And that's a big thing for me is like, I look back at where our business is today and I look at the next, like we talked about the next 5 years.
Yeah.
And my thing is like, what can I do better as I scale as a business owner, but also as a husband to make this process a little bit less painful with less friction going forward. I never ever asked you about my phone because you've always been okay with it. But sitting with your friends, do you ever sit there and say, oh, my husband's always the one on the phone?
Well, I'll be honest, like I find sometimes the harder part is my friends saying like, oh, is he always on his phone? Because to me, I've just accepted that comes with the job. Do you know what I mean? In the beginning, it was kind of like, okay, baby, got to learn to turn it off. Like we're out at dinner with our friends, we're at a party, whatever the case may be. And it's just one of those that's chipped away at me. And now it's just, yeah, that's how he is. You know, that he's doing what he's got to do for himself, for the business, for whatever it is that he's doing. You know what I mean?
And I
don't feel as bad anymore, I guess.
I'm assuming that's because of the consistent receipts deposited. That
exactly.
We have a proof of concept that like, if I'm on my phone and I'm doing something that, except for when I'm talking to my AI agent now, I know you hate that.
He has a name.
Ace. And Timothy is my financial advisor.
Okay.
So you think so anyone listening out there, I'm trying to think how I'm going to run around the park with this. So anyone listening out there, you believe eventually as there's more proof of concept, being that supporting factor as a spouse or whatever it is, the more proof of concept that first spouse provides will allow the second spouse to support them a little bit more.
I can't speak for everyone, but yes, in my experience, that's how it works.
And that's what we're going back to Curtin on you. Yeah. Just kind of saying like, because I feel like I'm pretty high performing right now. I think I'm working at my peak. I think we built something that's creditable. We built authority. We have multiple businesses. So I feel like I want your perspective on it because I feel like you've been through the ringer, good, bad, and the ugly, right? Yeah. And how do you feel with us multiple businesses? I know we had that one business venture that went in and tuition for university out the window, just like
goodbye,
gone out the window.
That was hard to swallow. I'm not gonna lie.
Have you built calluses over future ventures with that?
I think if anything, it's just taught me or both of us, be careful who you get in business with. You know, make sure you do it the right way. Yes, shit could happen. Obviously, things you don't predict, but if you protect yourself, hopefully, you know, you're lessening that effect on you when it does go sideways.
And after that one went sideways, do you look at financial investment differently?
A little bit,
when we first started a business, like $100 tool was $100 tool, right? And now we've gone through, I guess, a business venture that failed. It didn't fail, it just didn't go through. It just fell through the cracks.
Well, circumstantial,
right? Yeah. And that was like 35, 40 grand out the window. Like just like that overnight.
Not just like, the 40 grand hurt because that was our kids' tuition. That, you know, could have been our kids' tuition, I should say. But the amount of time, you know, like how much time did we spend sending out those emails and creating those things and having those meetings and meeting those people? It sucks, right? And I think everyone would learn from that, right? Next time you might not be so like, okay.
But do you look at the investment differently now? So say when we first started the business, like I said, $100 tool is a $100 tool. But after having a loss of $40,000, do you look at it as like, say, a $10,000 investment came around? Is $10,000 in your head now a smaller number because you've lost 40?
No. 10,000 is just like you said.
I find a lot of business owners.
It's a lot of money.
I find a lot of business owners begin to distinguish personal money from business money, and like,
yeah,
$5,000 in business is like, $500 personally. Like, it hits numbers differently.
Yeah.
Like, do you look at things differently? Where it's kind of like when we first started a business, a $10,000 investment would scare us.
Yeah.
Now, if an opportunity came around with $10,000, it's like, fuck it, let's make it work.
Yeah.
Because it seems like a good investment, a good ROI.
I think more than the amount of money, it's how we're investing. Like, for example, with us, we are the only business owners. You and I make all the decisions. You and I will make or break this company. Yeah, right. Unfortunately, with the other business that went sideways, we were a very small piece of that pie, and we didn't have that much to say. And that's kind of where, you know what I mean? So to answer your question, as an investor, would I go back in and invest a small piece of a pie of something? I'm not sure. I'd really have to see and feel it out. But that doesn't change the way I feel about us running a business where we are the only ones making decisions. We're going to sink this or we're going to float this. You know what I mean?
So getting to another investment then, would you say would you look at a different angle than when we first started business? Would you look at it, now that you've run a business, you've seen the way numbers work, you see the way P&Ls pop up.
Yeah.
Like, is your mindset different? Because I feel like first business, we jumped in, I was a little more dialed in on the business mindset. You're more dialed in on the opportunity mindset.
No.
It fell through, lost our money, bite the bullet, ate shit on it. Now going to the next one, would you go in with a different point of view where it's like, instead of like, this is a good idea, this is like an opportunity, would you dive more into the business part of it, or would it still be a decision based on opportunity versus
I honestly think they go hand in hand. I would never invest in a business that I don't believe has potential to make it. And I think that's what hurt with the first one, is it did have potential. I mean, I felt like it did. I think you did. Obviously, That's why we did it.
Invest the money.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I wouldn't do it if I didn't believe in whatever service or product you're selling. If I'm like, listen, this is stupid, I'm not going to invest in it. I think most people are like that.
I feel like certain opportunities have a bigger stretch where it's kind of like,
yeah,
it could work. It's a long stretch, but I could see it working.
Yeah.
Versus this is a grand slam. Like, would you be more skeptical if business wise, like looking at it from business and practicality wise, now that you've been in business, we've won, we've lost, are you a little more lenient on the big picture, on how businesses portray themselves? Like,
I feel like when we first started, you were the gambler and I was not. You know what I mean? Like, even with our investments, you wanted high risk and I wanted as low risk as possible. I find myself even now with those investments being a little more like, okay, I can take a little more risk. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that would in turn then work the same with business, right? In the beginning, I was like, whoa, let's just take this one little baby step at a time. I feel like, now that we've had this success, I'm willing to, go into a little more riskier decisions, or, the Hail Marys.
So adapting fear, again, another great quote is, fear is a tax you pay on big dreams.
Yeah.
Now, do you feel like you're okay paying a little more tax now that you've gone through wins and losses?
I think that, that's pretty much
sums it up, right? Yeah. Is your fear becoming, I guess, less relevant now? Like, I know when we first started business, fear was like a huge factor for you. It was like, oh my God, what if this, what if that? Now, you personally, like, you say, put yourself in a perspective where it's just you getting into business by yourself, right? Is it still top of mind, like fear, like, is this not going to work? Or is it like, how can this work? Because that's the way I looked at it from day one. I always looked at something as like, how can this work? This is how I'm going to get there. But these are the friction points. And I find when we first started, you had these are all the friction points.
Yeah.
But if we get through that, that's the point we're going to get to.
I think that will never change. I think that's just the type of person I am. I'm not like you where it's like, we're just going to make it work. I'm always like, okay, what's going to stop it from working? And can we get over those hurdles and actually make it work? That's just the type of person I am. And I don't think that'll ever change. You know what I mean? You go in with something like, I'm going to do this, and you don't even think about the obstacles. The obstacles are the first thing that crosses my mind. I'm like, oh boy, okay, what's it going to change here? And what's it going to do to us there? And like, what are the hurdles we have to get through? And are we going to be able to get through those? You don't even know what the hurdles are until you get to them.
And do you think that personality bleeds into the marriage, and that's why marriage works?
Yeah, I think we're like a good yin and yang, you know?
Even with like home life, like remove risk, remove anything like that, but like even raising kids or managing finances or like maintaining the household, like do you feel like we still play those roles? Again, we got to keep thinking of like everyone listening out there. Like, I want to have a raw, unfiltered conversation, but I want people to get value out of this. So I want people to be able to relate to like themselves. So it's kind of like, okay, well, that's how they do it in business. Like at home, how do we operate? You know what I mean? Because I feel
think it's the same thing at home, you know, like
I think you're very bossy at home. I'm gonna be honest.
I'm bossy at work too.
Yeah, that's true.
You work longer hours, so I pick up and making the dinner and doing the laundry and, you know, going grocery shopping or whatever that may be. It's that yin and yang, you know, like.
So it's not.
I don't complain about it.
30 or 37.
You know, today it's a 70-30. Tomorrow it might be 50-50. And then the next day it might be a 90-10 on the other side. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and I think that's where when people are like, marriage is a 50-50. It's never a 50-50. And we've all heard the saying. Sometimes it's 70-30. Other days it's 60-40. Sometimes you might be lucky it's 50-50. But
is there ever resentment that it's not 50-50 or it's 70-30?
Not for me, because I take the good with the bad. You know, the days where I have to do 90% and you do 10 at home, I know that there's going to be a day where it's the opposite and you're doing 90 and I'm doing 10. And it's not a yin, you know, it's not a tit for tat. It's not, well, you owe me one because I did this on Tuesday. Yeah. I just think with us, it just happens naturally that way. And I don't keep track of who does more what. We make it work, and I'm happy, you know?
We have that freedom where I just know it's just going to get done. And if I'm home, for instance, you're not around, and there's something has to get done, I don't say, like, that's my job. Exactly. It's just like, they should have to be put away. If they're there, just put them away.
Exactly.
Kind of thing. It's just, we don't see it as tasks. But do you feel like the roles from work, where we are today, do you think those bleed into our personal life?
Yeah.
Like how we manage a household? Because I feel like at home, you're more the visionary, I'm more the integrator.
Yeah, in business, we're the opposite.
Yeah, no, but that's what I mean. Like, you feel like at home, those roles can change because I feel like a lot of couples out there can adapt to their home life.
Yeah.
But then how do you adapt those roles into your work life and play a different role? Like, there are days for me to be hard. It is hard for me to be at home and not be the visionary.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard for me to adapt, but I know what I'm good at home, so I just kind of take it on and kind of say, okay, you know what, this is what I do. She's a visionary. She's looking at it from a big scale, so I'm just gonna shut up and listen, kind of thing. Yeah. Right? But there are days where it's hard for me to adapt that because, like, realistically, all day it's input for me. That's all it is. It's like input after input after input, and when I get home, it's like output, output, output.
Yeah.
So it's different to play that role. So like if someone's listening right now, like, do you find it hard for you to switch that role back and forth between the two? Or
yeah, because I feel like at home we'll say I'm the boss.
Yeah, no,
right? Like it's just when we got together, you were working a lot. I had to be the boss. I had to make decisions. I had to, you know, be with the kids more. So naturally, I just took on that role. And then in business, it's the opposite. I feel like you're definitely the boss. And that was hard in the beginning because I was like, whoa, that's not the role you play. You know what I mean? Like, what's happening? But over time, it's worked, you know, and it goes back to that. You've proven that you can be the boss and that I can trust you. Not that you can't at home, but you know what I mean? You just weren't there and like whatever. So now it's, like no issue at all. But it was a transformation for sure. Like I had to get used to that.
That's what I love about this episode is like so much of it is going back to like proof of concept, like consistency, doing the thing, I guess, depositing receipts, reap the rewards, like over and over, doing it day in, day out is like, it's built the foundation between us. Like I feel like it actually has built a foundation that allows us to do what we want, when we want, how we want, because you've done enough where you created a proof of concept. I've done enough where I've created a proof of concept, and we can balance it between home and life. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you know, I always work. And if I'm on the couch, I ask you something about work. It's one of those like, well, the last 10 times you've asked me something, it's made us money or advanced the business. It's moved the needle. So I'm going to answer this question.
No.
Where with you, I feel like you consistently had the at-home life under control, where if I do work a long hour, I'm like, you know what? I don't have to stress about it.
Yeah.
So I get home, buckle in, haul ass, because she's done enough, because every single day I'm out, I've done enough. And I feel like out of this whole conversation, that proof of concept and consistency is like the key factor. And that's what I'm building like everything on, is like proof of concept and consistency. Like take the leap, do it, but do it right and consistently do it. Yeah. Right. But with your business, with the design part of it, like that's what I want to touch on now that we've kind of pulled it back on who you are, how you portray everything, your perspective on everything. Let's talk about like just your business. Like, what do you love and hate about it?
Oh boy. I mean, I
know you hate not getting an email back from a client. I hear about that all the time. No. They didn't get back to me. And I'm like, I know, like, what do you want to do? But like, generally, like, what do you love and hate about?
Like about the interior design business itself, or being a business owner?
Business owner, interior design. It's like, this is open floor for you now. So like,
I mean, you know, kind of touched on it, but I love making my own hours. I love being my own boss. I love being able to take certain jobs and say no to others. I love being creative. I love when I have clients who are like, you know what, let's do something different. I mean, you know, who wouldn't love that? The drawbacks obviously are, you are your own boss. So you got to make sure that you're getting that paycheck and it's paying the bills. You want to make sure that your clients are happy and that they're seeing your vision, or you're seeing their vision and bringing it to life. Do you know what I mean? With everything, yes, there's clients that take forever to make decisions. And then sometimes it can be frustrating when the contractor is like, hey, we need this. And I'm like, I'm trying, you know? Yeah. But that's any job, right? Yeah.
From day one, do you feel like you've grown thicker skin? Because I know at first, when we first started working here, you were very emotional. Yeah. You're very sentimental towards certain situations, stuff like that. And like, I'm guilty for it too. When I first started my business, I looked at it and I did I'm never going to be that guy. But now that I've got to that point, and I feel like we've built a standard, core values, a reputation, and we like literally like surround our whole day to day around it. It's like we have certain standards we operate at. So am I sour some days? Am I rough and, you know, a little more cutthroat, let's call it, to clients or subcontractors? I am. But I know you've always been very like, approach it a different perspective, approach it gently, address it. Has your skin become thicker over the years, where it's kind of like, this is what I do, this is what you're paying me for? Yeah. Because you would adapt a lot before. I'm going to be honest, you would. And I loved you for it, and I did see it, and it was a good result. But like, do you feel like you operate a little bit different now that you've run a business?
Yeah. For sure. I agree with you. Like, I mean, I'm a Scorpio. I take everything to heart. You know what I mean? And that was hard as a business owner. You have clients that walk away from jobs for whatever reason. I always took it personally. You know, I didn't look at it like they're just not seeing the vision on our end, or we're not seeing eye to eye for whatever reason, whether it's pricing or whatnot. But I've learned over time, I guess, that it's not personal. Do you know what I mean? Like, so I've grown thicker skin that way. But I also feel like, you know, sometimes, yes, you have a rough day and you take it out on the trades, or you're a bit rough with the homeowners. I feel like I kind of like the way I am, because I can rein you in and be like, hey, man, I know you're upset, but you can't do that. You know what I mean? Like,
but they deserved it.
Well,
do you think that now that you've become a little more resistant, that bleeds into like your personal life. Like say like with a friend, go back when you were working a full-time job, you were very soft, sentimental, like.
I mean, I still like to believe that I am.
No, but you know what I mean? No, like, and then now at work, you've like, you know your stand, you know your criteria, you know like your core values. So you're working with the client, like, this is how I operate. You've hired me. This is how we're doing it. Do you feel like that goes into like the kids or friends? So say you have a friend and they're like, hey, this is the situation I have. You're a little more blunt and to the point because you're like, I'm not going to dance around this. Like,
I do feel like I am that way, although I think it has nothing to do with me being a business owner, but rather getting older. You know, like I remember being younger, seeing older people like, oh my God, I can't believe they could say that out loud. Like they're just so blunt. And as I get older, I'm like, you know what? I'm starting to get there. Like I have less patience for stupidity. I have less patience for people in general. I would never say anything in my younger days. I'd just be like, oh gosh, and just walk away. Now I'm just kind of like, you know what? No, that's not cool.
key is get old. That is, if you enjoy life and not care.
Not old, older.
Sorry, older.
No one's old here.
Older, yeah. And do you believe in work-life balance? I don't. I think it's a crock of shit. I think anyone that says I have work-life balance is full of shit. I think people that are successful in business and say, oh, I have work-life balance, let me spend time with my family. Like, well, you're not building your business, it's running itself. So you're not balancing the two. And anyone that's all into their business saying, oh, I still spend time with my family. If you're building a business, I don't believe you can have work-life balance. Like, that's my opinion on it. Like, just to be very blunt, put it out there. Because I really want everyone to feel like, yeah, exactly. That's exactly why I wanted to ask. Because I knew you would disagree with that.
I mean, you don't think you have work-life balance, but I know you do, because if you didn't, our kids would never see you. But our kids would never see you. Like, I mean, we work hard, yes, especially you, I would say. But you also spend time with the kids. We vacation as a family. You know, we go camping in the summertime. That's the balance. You're doing it without even thinking it, because you're not doing it consciously, but it's you're balancing it all the same.
But there's times when, like, you use camping as an example, right? We'd go camping and we'll be up having a coffee, and I'm sitting by a picnic table on my laptop working while we're out camping. See,
but that's the balance. You're still with your family. The kids are sleeping, so it's not like they're like, Daddy, come play with us. You know what I mean?
Even if we're out for dinner with the family or something, I'm plucking away on my phone. See, this is where I'm not understanding the work-life balance, because I'm like, I'm out with my family, I'm present. I've never had my kids call my name and me not address them. Yes,
there's times on our trips, let's say we're camping, where you do work. But those are usually the times where everyone's still asleep or people are busy doing other things. When it counts, when we're making dinner, when we're at the beach, when we're by the fire, you don't do that. That's the balance, you know? So no, you don't shut it off for the whole weekend, but you do choose wisely in when you're shutting it off throughout the weekend. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I just had a conversation with another business owner, and we were talking for a couple hours, and work-life balance came up. And one thing I told him is, like, you got to take something off your plate to put it on. And I decided, for instance, like taking sleep off my plate to put on time with you and Sophia when we go to the gym at 5:30 in the morning.
No.
Now, I don't believe I have work-life balance, but I make sacrifices based on trying to create work-life balance. Now, that day I might not be home till like 6 o'clock at night or 5:30 or whatever it is, but I got up an extra hour early and went to the gym with you guys. And that hour I lose at night, I'm spending in the morning. But people, I find a lot of people, when they look at work-life balance, they're like, they compare it to a 9 to 5.
Yeah.
And they're very like, to have work-life balance, you work at 9, come home at 5, and the rest of the time is just your time. And I strongly believe you can blend the two. And I think that's what makes a relationship good. And I'm hoping people that are listening are realizing, like, you're going to need to do that to build success, build stability, but at the same time, have sacrifice. Because it comes with both. It's a very blended, foggy kind of situation, I think. And I don't think it's ever perfect, but
I think this is one of those things, there is no right answer. You know, this works for us and we're happy doing it because of the way that we are. There's no formula that works for every couple. You know, they could take the exact same advice and do it the exact same way we do, but their personalities are different. The way they perceive things are different. Their fears are different. So it won't work. There's no book to be written that solves everybody's problem. I think it's more important that you find someone that's going to work with you and the way you are and you have the same goals. But if you have two couples that will never see eye to eye, this will never work, no matter what advice you give them, you know? So,
and that's what I want to touch on.
Tricky, right?
At the beginning of the episode, like I said, I want this episode to open conversations with couples.
Yeah.
Because we've been through like the ups and downs.
Yeah.
Like there's days where like I promise myself I'd become vulnerable on camera, and I'm going to say like, we're out for dinner as a family, and you're like, hey, let's all go out for dinner. And I'm like, fuck, like, am I even gonna make payroll this week? And we gotta go for dinner now. And I didn't want to say no.
Yeah.
Because I want to create that lifestyle and that time with our family, because we don't do much as a family. We vacation, but it's like camp 6-7 times throughout the summer, right? And then maybe we'll go on vacation, like stuff like that, where I'm like, I want to provide those situations with it. And I'm hoping people are having those conversations with each other where it's kind of like, times are going to get tough, because I think we've gone through those times. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like we've gone through those weeks and where we've had to cut our payback, where we've had to like scale back and say, hey, we can't do this right now. Like,
yeah.
And
I think that's any entrepreneur that's starting out, right?
But that's what I want this episode to be, is that they can talk to their spouse about it.
Yeah.
There's been times where I've turned to you and I just like say, fuck, like it's not going to work. Like I can't figure it out. And you give me the, baby, you always figure it out. Oh, you'll do it. Or, and it lights a fire under my ass, right? But there are those hard times where like, sure, we're sitting here with a bunch of cameras set up and a videographer and lights set on us. No, but it's cool that we can do this now, but like, it's not rainbows and sunshine.
We haven't always been here.
Yeah, it's not all rainbows and sunshines. And truthfully, like it all comes back to communication.
Yeah.
It all boils back to like us knowing each other, us adapting to each other, us kind of rolling like with the punches ultimately, because I feel like we've had this shit kicked out of us multiple times.
Yeah.
Even today, like to the date, I'm like, are we going to win finally? And I think that goes back to what you were saying about having bigger goals and like expecting more in the next 5 years. Is like, I don't see what winning is anymore. I feel like I'm blind by it, and you come in and show me like, hey babe, like this is winning. And I'm like, oh shit, like I never thought about that. Like, yeah, good perspective. But I think as being the visionary, I feel like we're constantly getting beat up and knocked down, and we're always behind, or we're never going to be enough.
Yeah. Because
the goalposts are getting moved so quickly, so far ahead, which like puts little things in my mind where it's like topics I wanted to ask you about is like decision making. Like I actually think to myself, I'm like, am I making the right decision? And you know me, how many decisions do I make a day? 1,000?
The thing about decision making is you never know if it's the right one until after you made it.
Yeah, right?
So it's that risk, and But I always go back to, you talk about success in a financial way, and I get that's the way that you operate. To me, success isn't always financial. Like, yes, you need money to pay your bills. You need money to eat. You need money to go on fancy vacations or whatnot. To me, success is we have 2 kids that are healthy. And we dreamed for this one day. When you and I met, this was our dream. And now we're living in it. And it's like, I'm going to get all emotional. So now we're living in it. And it's like, oh, well, I want bigger. I think sometimes people need to take a break and say, let's appreciate what we have here. Because this was our dream once upon a time.
Well, it's like we were talking about the other day with the good old days, right?
Yeah.
Like when kids were small, like they're driving us crazy. They're loud. They're obnoxious. But it's like, now we talk and I'm like, oh, the good old days when the kids are small, right? Yeah. Right now we're living 5 years from now's good old days, and you're not embracing it. But I feel like because of my mindset, I'm constantly chasing what's next, because truthfully, I know you want to appreciate what's here today, but I don't feel like we'd have what's here today if I didn't have the mindset of tomorrow.
And I get that. And
that's where it's that hard balance,
and then
right?
One day we're going to be somewhere else going, man, we dreamt of this.
Yeah.
I just think while you're dreaming it, you got to stop and take those moments of like, let's take a moment to celebrate what we have here, to appreciate where we've come, enjoy the moment just for a second, and then move on and, keep dreaming the big dream.
And I feel like
moving that goalpost, right?
And I feel like that's where we balance each other really well, because I feel like I'm always 5 years ahead, right? I feel like I was always like 6 months ahead, or 3 months ahead. And now that I see what 5 years can do, I'm like, now 5 years is like a minimum. I'm not even worried about tomorrow. I'm worried about 5 years from now.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we're really good at balancing ourselves, because like you're good at living in the moment.
Yeah.
I'm horrible at it.
Yeah.
I'm like head down, shutters on, and just move forward.
Yeah.
And you create that work-life balance on the back end. Like we were talking about, you do that 70 when I do the 30 at home, that creates the right now moment. Like even like cooking dinner and sitting at the table together or something like that. Like that's what makes it really cool that we have that balance. I think having a spouse that can acknowledge that, because I can't acknowledge that, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I look at it as like, I need to create the financial freedom to allow us have the family time, to have the vacation, to have stuff like that. But then when we're there, I'm looking at what's the next vacation, what's the next trip we can do.
But then
and
you never
look at
get
it
that reward. When you do it that way, you never get to take that moment of like, I got it. And then, okay, let's keep going.
And that's where I think you come in really well. It's kind of like, we're on that vacation. You're like, hey, babe, let's go and do this with the kids. I'm like, yeah, you know what? Let's do that, right? And sure, yeah, I might have my phone on me or whatever, but you do that 70%, which glues it all together, right? Like I'll bring the puzzle pieces, but like you literally glue that all together where it's like when we're in the moment, you really embrace the moment. So like when we're in moments like that and everything, like what's your perspective on like decision making? Like when do you turn around and say, no, you know what? This is a in the moment kind of thing.
I think
I know a big no, but I think a big one is like dinner for you, right?
Yeah.
And we decide if we're all home, we sit together, we have dinner, right? Like, are there certain points when we're in the hustle and bustle where like you sit there and think like, okay, hold on, we need to think this through? And not with like me or anything like that, like with the kids. Like, do you ever have decision making moment where it's like, you know, we haven't done anything with them in a while? Like, what are your benchmarks when you create that in the moment thing? Is it like a timeline? Like, hey, we haven't done anything with them like bigger in 6 months? Or it's kind of like every day you try to make a conscious decision of like, let's spend 15 minutes with our kids or half an hour with our kids or anything like that.
I try to do it every day, but you know, some days are so busy and the kids are busy and we're busy and you know, we don't line up. But I find as they're getting older, I feel this pressure of like, we really got to spend that time because like they're going to fly them out of the nest soon. You know what I mean? And this is what we've been training for, and this is what we've been raising them to do, and we want them to be successful and independent. But when they get to be those teenage years where it's like one's going off to university soon, you start to have these like, did I spend enough time with them? Did I do everything I wanted to do? You know, so then it's like this pressure of like, we should book another vacation and like have one last hurrah before they're off to school or whatever.
Yeah, it's like living life in the present, but
like
appreciating the past, right?
Exactly.
Now with the kids, how much do you think our kids have taken from what we go through day to day and it's built their personality around it? Like how much of them are molded based on...
Well, I'll tell you that. So I love this story. I was sitting down with Aiden because he's going to be going to university in like a year and a half. And we were just talking about what he wants to do for a living. And one thing he said, he's like, you know, Mom, I've realized that I like the finer things in life. So I have to have a good job to have these things, right? And I think that that is molded by who we are and providing for the family and like doing those things. I mean, we're not rich. It's not like we're eating caviar or anything like that. But our kids have nice clothes and, you know, they get what they want. And he's acknowledged that now we've created this little human who likes these things and wants to continue his life having those things. So now he's choosing his career wisely, ensuring that, you know, yes, he's going to be happy, but also it's going to put the same type of food or the same clothes on his back when he's independent and on his own.
In personal traits, do you think they picked up anything with us where, let's use an example, like, I know we have a lot of friends where they're like, get off your phone to their kids, right? I think we're pretty lax on it. And I don't think we doom scroll very much though in front of our kids. No. We don't, right? So I feel like when our kids are on their phones, like they're pretty good at not being on their phones when we ask them not to be, kind of thing. But do you think that's become, I guess, a subconscious trait? Because like we're always on our phones, but when we're on our phones, we're practical. We're doing something. We're working. We're doing this. We're doing that. It's not like they're asking us for food and we're just sitting there scrolling. Yeah, we'll eat later. Like we never do that. But do you feel like they're picking up traits and personality traits that kind of piggyback off the way we operate that way? I'm just using the phone as an example. But I'm saying like being punctual, being like respectful to people, being like,
I mean, at the
doing
end of
what
the
you say you're
day,
gonna do. Like, I know a lot of those are just like teach your kids not to be an asshole, but
Yeah.
like being business owners and having two business owners be parents, like what are key traits that you think our kids in our actual like real life situation have adapted by us being business owners? Like, what are big things that you've noticed are like, and not the like finer things in life, or I want a job that can pay me that, like decisions they make day to day. Do you see anything in them that, because I can think of a few, but I want to see where you're going to go with this. Like,
I mean, I do. I'd have to like think about it really. Teenagers are tricky because they're teenagers at the end of the day. We've all been a teenager, and like, God bless my mom, she survived. But I think it's one of those things you're really going to see when they're on their own, Like, yes, there's examples that I can bring up that we see every day that, they're hardworking and they try really hard at school and they care about their marks. And those are the equivalent of us in our business. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So we see that every day. But at the end of the day, like, are they always punctual? Well, no, they're teenagers, Like, and I know it's a poor excuse, but I was a teenager once and I wasn't always on time everywhere I went, or little things like that. But now as an adult, I am. And I am so, like, to me, that is so important, because it was drilled into me when I was a kid. So I'm hoping that when the kids move out and they're on their own, we're really going to see those traits come out. Do you know what I mean?
I find with our kids, like, I think it's the age trap because they're thinking about careers, right? And even talking to their friends, I find all their friends are very, like, and it's nothing wrong with it, but they're very employment based.
Yeah.
I want to be a cop. I want to be a doctor. I want to be an astrophysicist. I want to be everything as an employable job, right? And both our kids have gone right on left field. It wasn't even an option. It was straight out like, this is what I want to do. I'll work for someone, but how do I start my own business out of it? And I don't know if you noticed that, but Lily, Aiden, and Sophia were both that direction where they're like, I want to run my own business. This is what I'll learn. This is the pain I'll go through to learn it. But at the end result is to have my own business. And I think that's a direct, I guess, relation to the way we live our lives, because they've seen running your own business, what it can do, right? And my biggest worry is like, we hide a lot of the like shit kicking from them, which I'm hoping in the next few years, now that they're older, I can start, I guess, showing them like it does suck. Like literally out of 365 days, 364.
The thing is, no one told us it sucks. No one told us the shit kicking we'd have to do. We learned it on our own.
You don't think we have a responsibility as parents?
No, because I feel like then you're going to make them, you're kind of persuading them not to do it, And maybe they won't have as much shit to kick as we did. I don't know, but something I think they got to figure out on their own. Because if you tell them like, oh man, it's so hard, but the reward's great. Kids naturally think, oh, hard, never mind. I want the easy route. That's the generation that these kids are coming from. Everything is the easy, fastest way possible. And you tell them anything.
Isn't that the equivalent of having a mentor that would turn to you and say, hey, this is going to suck?
No, you let them start the business. And when they're like, oh man, I'm in a rut. Okay, what can I do to help you? Or like, I wouldn't discourage them from starting it. I would help them once they're there and they're going through those hurdles and they need help.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I think if someone came to us and said, are you sure you want to start a business? This is all the stuff you're going to have to hurdle through. I'll tell you right now, I'd probably be like, forget it. Never mind.
Oh, I'd go through it.
I'm here today because no one told me that. And yeah, like obviously we have common sense and we knew there would be issues. But if they told us all the crap that we had to go through, I don't think I'd be here.
Yeah,
and I don't want to discourage them from doing that. Yeah. So
I think it's the problems that we're facing right now where we're at a bigger scale business that I wouldn't expect to deal with these problems. Right? Like, because there's other problems now where I'm not worried about bringing home my paycheck. I'm worried about bringing home other people's paychecks. I'm worried about keeping a roof over their head. I'm worried about maintenance. I'm worried about safety. Like, there's other things I'm worried about that I never thought I'd be worrying about. The first pain struggles of business I knew I'd deal with. Long hours, work hard.
Common sense, right?
Common sense, right? But the other problems that we're dealing with now is like the different problems, right? Which I didn't expect to do. But back to the kids, give me one trait that you want them to get out of watching us grow and scale businesses, and one trait you don't want them to get. So I think that's going to be the harder one. I really want people I really want people out there that are having kids or already have kids that are running a business, like, to look at it and say, like, yeah, you know what, this is something I want to start drilling my kids, or no, you know what, this is something I need to hide from my kids, because they're right. I never thought of it like that.
I want them to both be proud of what they do, regardless of what, like, you know, whether it's your own business or if you are an employee for a big company or a small company, be proud of everything you do. You know, take pride in what you do. Be proud, love your job. Like, I mean, I don't know. Work hard, I guess. They all go kind of hand in hand.
What trade do you not want them to have?
I don't want them to be lazy.
No, but no, what trait do you want them not to adapt from us?
Oh. I don't know.
I want our kids, I don't want them to adapt my very short fuse, fast pace.
Yeah.
Patience. Like, my patience is like,
yeah.
I like, I'm at the point where I don't even care to ask someone how they are if I generally don't care how they're doing, because that wastes time in my day. Like, honestly,
so your social skills?
Yeah, no, but honestly, like, that's one trait. Like, I know it's got me this far by operating at that high capacity, but I'm generally at the point where, like, when I see someone, you get a head nod and that's it, because I have so little time in a day where, like,
I don't want that for them.
And I don't want them to adapt and become that rigid, but I'm like, I want them to be able to be that rigid, but not let it become them.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like it's already become me. So there's, like, that's just the way I am. I'm trying to change. Well, you know, this year, like, how many times, this is a reason this is happening. You've turned to me and said, you don't know how to have a conversation.
Wow.
You've literally turned to me and said, what is wrong with you? You can't converse with someone. So I'm like, fuck it, let's start a podcast. I have to talk to someone at that point, right? So I don't want them to become that person where they're that rigid on their time or anything like that. But I do want them to be able to be like that for that when they're in that season of life they need to be. Yeah. They can be. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I'm just excited to see what human beings they turn out to be.
Right? Like, there's days where I'm like, I don't know, like, we do it right, like, but
pretty good.
Yeah, is there anything else you want to touch on? I think that was a wicked episode. I think that calls for part number 2. I think.
No.
Yeah, no, I think this is in part 2. Shit, fun, deep down stuff.
No, I did not. I'm kidding. I did. I'm good.
You're good?
Done. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So another episode. That one was really cool. I had a lot of fun with that. I really appreciate you coming on. Like, thanks. That was really cool.
Excited to be your first guest.
I know, right? AC Custom Interiors. Yeah. So all in all, like, I really wanted to become vulnerable. I want to bring on someone that knows me inside out. I wanted to open up to people, talk about the struggles, but most importantly, like, you can make it work as a couple. You literally can, like, run a business together, have a good life, raise kids. There's days it fucking sucks. Like, truthfully, there's days it sucks. There's days where you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I didn't do this sooner. I generally believe if you're doing it now, now's the time to do it, because what you've learned prior to this is what's molded you to be able to do this. But, like, open communication, we touched on that today. We touched about knowing the other person. We touched about aligning goals. We touched about balancing each other. There's so much stuff in this episode. I hope someone gets something out of it. Besides that, Forget the Noise podcast. Another episode coming up soon. Can't wait.